Greetings and welcome to my presentation on Puritan Dancing, the Crucible, and my reflection on theater workshop. During this presentation, I will be discussing the taboo behind Puritan dancing, how this was portrayed in Arthur Miller's The Crucible, and how we portrayed dance and movement in our production. Luckily for us, a theater and dance student at the University of Mexico wrote her entire dissertation on Puritan dance. Thanks, Rachel A. Placard. Rachel wanted us to know that the Puritans of New England did dance, regardless of their thoughts on dance at a theological level and regardless of what the ministers preached to their congregations. There were four main types of Puritan dances: measures, galliards, corantos, and branles. Measures were formal dances often performed at inns. Although they sometimes consisted of formations in the round, they were mainly processional dances. As processionals, these measures consisted of basic steps, primarily the singles and doubles. These a step together and a step together respectively could be combined in a number of patterns and directions to create beautiful, intricate sequences. The galliard was a more active and social dance, which involved a series of kicking steps, runs, hops, skips, and even lifts of the lady. And its basic form, it was comprised of 4 kicking steps, followed by a hop. The corantos was one of the most popular court dances for 2 centuries. 2 forms of corantos developed over the course of these 2 centuries. The first, which was most likely the type practiced by the Puritans and other Englishmen and colonists in the 17th century, originated in Italy. In order to dance the corantos, one had to be incredibly light on their feet, as the music for the dance was particularly fast and lively. The branle was a very malleable dance form and could vary in tempo, difficulty, and formation depending on the number of participants and their skill levels. The branle was the most popular group dance up until the mid-century. This dance consists of several segments of choreography, which varied from grave and serious to quite jumpy and lively. Dancing was a bit of a challenge for the Puritans. The Bible didn't prohibit it, and biblical characters such as David are described as dancing before the Lord. Since the Puritans looked to the Bible for their behavioral cues, they weren't about to prohibit dancing entirely. But they were wary of it, because they believed that dancing could lead to sin and sloth. So they put restrictions on it, especially on lascivious dancing, which they defined as any dancing which men and women were touching each other. They also forbid any mixing of dancing and alcohol consumption. Prominent dance opponents were Increase Mather, the 17th century Boston minister, and his son Cotton Mather, who followed in his footsteps. An early publication on the evils of dancing, entitled An Arrow Against Profane and Promiscuous Dancing Drawn Out of the Quiver of the Scriptures, arguably by Increase Mather and other ministers, makes the case that dancing was not only frivolous, but wrong in the eyes of God. In The Crucible, Arthur Miller used dance as a driving force in which sets the hysteria in motion. It is the discovery of a group of girls engaged in what appeared to be ritualistic dancing in the woods, which inspires Salem to first begin mumbling witchcraft. While Arthur Miller did not intend to have the audience witness the girls dancing in the woods, we chose to honor it during our first transition from classroom to Act 1. Our brilliant choreographer Marissa chose to use movements which were very witchy and mysterious, to show how the Puritans viewed dancing as being ritualistic and satanic. While my character, Abigail Williams, was not on stage during the dance or seance sequence, she was one of the girls who was discovered dancing in the woods by her Uncle Paris. She speaks about dance a lot, begging her uncle to believe her that they had simply been dancing for fun. Her desperation for him to believe her shows that while dancing was heavily restricted in Puritan society, it was certainly the lesser of 2 evils when compared to witchcraft. As movement captain, my job was to keep track of all the transitions and the movement sequences that happened within them. In order to do this, I created these color-coded cheat sheets for myself and the cast. While I'm not sure anyone else in the cast actually used them, I found them quite helpful in keeping track of where we all needed to be. I was also able to lead the cast in physical warm-ups before rehearsals. This was a little nerve-wracking at first because I had not had the opportunity to have a leadership role like this before, and I was afraid they would all hate my warm-ups. However, I actually found it really fun, and a couple students told me that they really loved the warm-up catwalk that I had come up with. There are many skills that I've obtained from theater that I can use in other areas of my life. From this specific experience, I grew as a leader. I learned how to gain control of my group and engage my peers in activities I planned. I also gained a lot of confidence from this. I was afraid that my peers would not respect what I had to say. However, I was pleasantly surprised by how well the cast responded to me, and my confidence definitely grew as a result. The organizational aspect of my job as movement captain wasn't one that I had originally expected. However, it quickly became clear that I was going to have to get organized in order to keep track of all the movements. I actually really enjoyed color coding the cheat sheets and feeling like I was able to be of any help to anyone who needed it. It definitely took a lot of creative problem solving to orchestrate the transition sequences, and I definitely learned a lot by working with Marissa as she went. She had to choreograph on her feet and think of problems as she went along. Instead of a boring old thanks for watching slide, please enjoy this gif/gif of a Puritan man performing the Galliard.